Hello friends and welcome to the tutorial. Today we are going to be drawing a cartoon style skeleton using the Picasso Tab and Sketchbook Pro. Let's begin. I am working on a new layer. I picked the pencil and a green colour for sketching. To start the drawing, I drew a rounded half circle or mushroom shape and then drew a straight line at the bottom to create a flat edge. Then to this I drew 3 lines to create a small rectangle coming out from the middle of the bottom line. Into the face I then added lines for the nose and 2 long oval shapes for the eyes. Then I zoomed out and moved the face, placing it further up on the page using the transform tool from the top menu. You can move and resize your sketch at any time using this tool. I drew in 2 slightly curved lines coming down from the small rectangle to form the neck, and added in 2 slanted lines coming out from either side of the neck to form the shoulders. Then I drew in the rest of the body shape, drawing 2 lines coming down on either side and then a squashed diamond shape at the bottom. I am drawing the body to have a bit of a curve to his posture. This will help make the design look more interesting and fun later on. I added in another 2 lines coming down and then an upside down half circle to form the hips section. From here I zoomed out again and drew in a couple of rough guidelines for the arms and legs. Drawing guidelines is usually a good idea, and using these you can check that you like the proportions before drawing in all the details. With the main structure completed, I went in and added details and erased some of the lines to clean up my sketch. I drew lines into the rib cage, added in bones into each arm as well as the hands. As the skeleton today has a fun cartoon feel, I'm not going to worry too much about getting anything realistic, as slightly exaggerated proportions tend to look really good in a cartoon style. The hands were made up of different block shapes for the palms and the fingers. Then I added in the bones into the legs, using the guidelines as a centre line and drawing in the sides of the bones on either side of the guideline. On the legs, I drew the top and bottom bones interlocking with a reverse triangle shapes at the end of each bone. Once I had added in a few lines into the feet, I could move on to adding a few background features into the drawing, starting with a curved line for the ground. Then I drew in a tree on the left hand side, keeping the sides curved and fluid as I wanted to highlight the whimsical cartoon style in the background as well. I then added in a gravestone next to the tree and then another one on the other side of the skeleton. The final details were a few tufts of grass, and then I added in a circle behind him to act as the moon. The sketch was then complete. To outline, I placed the opacity of the sketch layer down and then locked that layer. On a new layer, I simply traced all the lines of the sketch using the fountain pen and with the predictive stroke tool turned on to help smooth out the lines. I also kept the line art for the skeleton and the background on separate layers. This is a good idea if you want to be able to move the character around without disturbing the background. Time to add some colour to the drawing. To set up, I duplicated all of the line art layers and locked down the top versions of each layer. Then in the bottom layer, I simply filled in the skeleton with the paint bucket, choosing different creams and a light and dark greys to colour him in. After that, I moved on to working in the background layer and I filled in the colours, placing green and brown in the tree and grey for the gravestones. After the main colours were finished, I created another new layer and placed a light cream circle behind everything and added a few white ovals into that moon as details. The next step was to add in a few extra details with highlight and shadow lines. I started on the rib cage and simply drew in shadow lines at the bottom of the sections and highlights at the top. I went around all the drawing and added in these details wherever I felt they were needed, generally adding shadows at the bottom of sections and highlights on the top. Then into the tree I drew in some much larger dark green shadow shapes and then drew in a lighter highlight line all around the outside of the tree, as well as layering up some highlights into the shadow sections as well. You can choose how much or how little to add to your own drawing, and make sure to place all of these details on a separate layer. That way you can turn the layer on and off to see how you like the details. The final step was to draw a white outline all around the skeleton and add in some little gold coloured stars and dots just to add a little sense of magic to the dancing skeleton. Then I added in a black rectangle behind the moon on a separate layer that was placed below everything else on the layer list. With that, the drawing was complete. I hope you enjoyed drawing the skeleton today. Thank you for watching.